Hello, I'm Dr. James Bogash, publisher of Modern Health Myths. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how you can impact your risk of dying from COVID, other than just hiding out in your home and wearing a mask and washing your hands. One of the issues I continue to have is that there's never any discussion about just how powerful lifestyle is in risk of both infection, hospitalizations, and deaths associated with COVID. And yet it is very clear that our choices make a huge difference in the outcomes associated with this. We can certainly talk about healthy people getting sick, and certainly that happens, but those are, in order to describe the percentage, you need scientific notation. Those percentages are so small. One of the things we can look at, however, is in going back to Italy. Now that we've had a lot of time to kind of digest some of the data, we're able to kind of tease apart some of the things that might have made a difference or some patterns. In Italy, generally the southern area of Italy is considered to be more adherent to a Mediterranean type diet. Mediterranean type diet is generally considered one of the more healthy diets on the planet. It is associated with lots of different fruits and vegetables and colors in our diet, chemical names like polyphenols and things that are generally very good for our health. So researchers compared Lombardy, which is in the northern part of Italy, and population of about 10.5 million, and they compared that to Lazio in the southern portion of Italy, and they which has about 5.8 million, 5.9 million residents. And they looked at type 2 diabetics. And those people in those areas, there was a drastic difference in the death rate. So we're looking at both heavily populated areas and an area that generally has more adherence to the Mediterranean type diet. And they compared it to the northern region, which had less adherence. Granted, there's other factors that could go into this, but this was one of the first things that they looked at. And they looked at this specifically in type 2 diabetics. So the death rate in Lombardy was of type 2 diabetics who developed coronavirus was 56.9, 57% almost. Those are some pretty scary numbers if you're type 2 diabetic living in Lombardy. Little way south, however, the death rate was just a tad bit lower at 1.3%. For those of you that are good at math, that's the 44 times difference. This isn't just a little bit. This is a massive difference between southern Italy type 2 diabetic deaths and northern Italy type 2 diabetic deaths. Now, it doesn't mean that the Mediterranean diet is the only factor, but clearly there were things happening in Lazio that didn't happen in Lombardy, and the Mediterranean diet is one thing in particular to look at. Again, this is a huge difference in rates of death for type 2 diabetics between those two populations, and certainly lends weight to the idea that the choices we make have everything to do with our experience with coronavirus. And unfortunately, this is not a topic of conversation. We have conversations about superficial aspects of whether we should send our kids back to school, or whether or not we should wear masks, or should we be washing our hands, or social distancing, or closing gyms, closing movie theaters here in Arizona, which, in case you don't live in Arizona, they weren't open, but we closed them anyway. So as always, I will post the link to this particular study in the comments section, and feel free to like this video, share it with somebody you think needs the message, and subscribe to the channel.